Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of TechTual Talk. I'm your host, HD, man, and we got a special guest for y'all today. His name is Greg. Me and him worked together years ago. For y'all that follow me, y'all know I got my start in the help desk, and he was one of my coworkers there. And he has like, no lie, probably like top two, and there's not two resignations I've ever witnessed in the organization. And we may talk about that, but all in all, we're just going to talk about him, his tech journey, him being a veteran, him teaching veterans to get into IT. So I think that's pretty cool. We'll talk about that. We may dabble into some of the latest tech news, especially like these layoffs. It's been really kind of hard, to be on LinkedIn and other social media sites lately. When you see what's going on, it's kind of like, dang, do I want to share good news? Everybody going through bad stuff, but this typically happens a lot of times. It'll eventually correct itself. But if you're in here watching right now, please make sure you hit that thumbs up button so everyone can know that we're live and we're about to start. Let me bring our guest up. Yo, what's going on, man? Oops. There you go.
Oh,
I had you muted still.
you're good. Hey, normal technical glitch. Yeah, everything's going good, man. Thank you for having me on today.
Yeah, man. I was just telling them, I don't know if you could hear me in the background. I was talking about like you had the most like epic resignation from a job. So I would kind of want let's start off with that. Like what went through your mind when you sent us that email and we just saw it I'm trying to see if we were working the same shift or whatever. Do you remember what you said exactly verbatim on that?
Nah, man. I had too many nights. That was way, way too long ago. But I do recall the whole situation. And so, like you said, we started off at working for a service desk, help desk with the TSA. So I started it as soon as I graduated college, 2013. As soon as I graduated, they hired me on. So it was my first tech job and everything. So I was like, okay, making good money, decent money. And then we started in Fort Worth. And then they moved us over to Shreveport because
I don't
that's
wait.
what companies do.
We were in Bossier.
Yeah, there we go. Bossier. So yeah, so I decided to relocate, but I left my family here at the time. So I had a, 1-year-old daughter, and then my son, he wasn't even one yet. Like I think my daughter was 2, and he wasn't even one yet. So, I'm trying to follow the money at the time. So I get out there, finally get hired on full time. It was not a good place for me, good space for me at all. So So yeah, when it came down to it, I had to make that decision. Do I want to be there just for the money, or do I want to be at home for my family? And um, I was just getting out of the service, so it was really hard for me to kind of be okay with that disconnect, because I was so used to being in the service and always, leaving, and okay, everyone will, they'll be fine. They'll be fine without me. But then when you get out into the real world and you start working as a civilian, you can change it. You can make those decisions for yourself. No one's forcing you to do anything. So uh, as time went on, it just kind of built up more and more and more. I wanted to get back home. I wanted to be with my family. And then there was a lot of stupid stuff going on at the service, at the help desk. And I mean, you know how it was. It was like one day everything was good. The next day they're changing something, or someone did
Yep.
something, and everyone gets in trouble for that one person doing something stupid. I just was getting fed up with it. I just couldn't mentally take it anymore. So I believe it was on a Sunday. And I wrote that email and I left it at that. And I just left. I was like, hey, it's been good. It's been real, but it hasn't been real good. And I just left. And that was it. That was the first and only time I've ever just left a job like that. Usually I'm pretty good about giving my 2 weeks, but I don't think I would have made it 2 weeks if I would have done it that way. So I just was like, I'll see y'all when I see y'all. I went ghost. Like, no one could find me on social media.
I remember when it kind of said, and to paraphrase, it's like, welp, it's been real, y'all, but I'm going back to the great state of Texas. Get at me sometimes if you here's my number, so I'm stay in contact with me later or something like that. Something along the lines of that, because it was me and Richard Moore. We worked that shift when we were just laughing. Like everybody say, y'all see Greg message. It was hilarious because if I'm and we'll get more into that later on, because I believe you're like at the time 1.5, and then I think they brought you over there and you were like supposed to be like supervisor or something, that they try to make you be a supervisor or something.
It was a 1.5 position, which if anyone don't know what a 1.5 is, like a glorified level 1, like,
but not tier 2.
But we ain't gonna pay you tier 2 money. And at that time I was with the help desk for about 3 years, going on 3 years. So I was due for a promotion to it, but that's another issue. But yeah, it was just one of those type of things. And I was a lead. They said I was a lead, but I couldn't do lead things. For instance, there was this one time on the weekend. It was early in the morning. Some guy calls in, and one of the techs, they get the call, and they come over to me and they're like, "Hey, Greg, this guy's mad because he's trying to get into his iPad or do something with his iPhone, and I want to reset it. I know how to do it, but he doesn't have it on him, so I can't verify this information." And so again, it's like 5 o'clock in the morning, right? And so the guy's mad and everything, and he's like, "I want to speak to a supervisor." No one's there at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning besides me. So I go ahead and I'm like, okay, well, let me talk to him, because that is what you do as a lead.
We used to work like those shifts.
Yeah, those overnight shifts, which they were always fun to me because there was nothing.
5 calls.
Right. Total throughout everything. So I talked to the dude, and I'm explaining to him like, hey, in order for us to do this, we do need you to have your device in front of you, so we can, because there's things you have to do for us to continue on. And he gets mad and everything, and I'm like, hey, call back as soon as you have the device. Call back, ask for me. I'll help you out. So I'm thinking, hey, good job, Greg. Pat yourself on the back. That's what a lead does. Apparently not. apparently I was not supposed to take care of irate calls or anything like that. It was just one of those things. As soon as management got in, they pulled me into the office and they're like, what happened? And I explained to them, I'm like, this dude's over here yelling at this guy. And so, I took over the call and everything. I got him fixed up, which was the win. He was cool. He calmed down. I got him fixed up. But I was not supposed to do that because that is a manager supervisor role. Even though you say I'm a lead, and you never gave me a description of what I can and cannot do. I was just trying to help. So, it's those little things that kind of it just left me with a bad feeling. Like, okay, you want me to be a lead, you want me to be a leader and support everyone and help others go further, yet I cannot defend the people that you put on my team or you leave with me. So, I just that was one of those issues that left a bittersweet taste in my mouth. I was happy that he got fixed, but
right.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have our whole time where we can spend to talk about everything that was wrong with that services. But so for the people that are just tuning in, let's how about this, man? Like, who is Greg? Like, if they want to ask you, like, who are you? Like, who is Greg?
Oh man. So who is Greg? Will, born, raised, great state of Texas, like my email says, and I stick with that every single day. So I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I served 8 years in the Army with 2 deployments under my belt. So enjoyed that. I went in. It's funny because I went in as a human resource specialist, which a lot of people never knew, but that was the only job at the moment that was given that $20,000 bonus. So I was like, hey, give it to me. So went in, and as soon as I got out of boot camp, went to my first unit, and they was like, okay, we're deploying and you're going to infantry school. So it literally on my DD 214, if anyone knows what that is, it's just, your military paper saying, hey, you served and you're out. Literally on my DD 214, it says like 42 Alpha, like 3 months. I don't even think it says 3 months, like 2. And then I switched over to infantry. And so deployed the first time, came back home, stayed about a year, deployed again, second time, came back home, and then just did countless training exercises and helping others get trained up and everything. So then wanted to start a family. So I went ahead and started a family, got married, had my daughter who is 10 now. So time flies. But during that time, I was also going to school for computer networking and administration. So I always had a knack for computers. I always loved working on computers, breaking computers, and fixing it. That was just me. So you ask my parents, they'll be like, yeah, he was literally sitting in front of the computer every single day when he got home. And this was the age of dial-up, AOL back in the day and stuff like that, AIM Messenger and all that stuff. So I'm sure you know about that, Henry. So I just, I stuck with it. I found that passion, and been in IT since then for 12 years now. So it's, started off with the help desk, went over, did field service, field tech engineer, so field tech. Then got brought on as a jobs, but then it came back for Baylor Scott and White. If anyone's from Texas, Baylor Scott and White Hospital, pretty big hospital here, and worked with them as an Active Directory engineer, worked for City of Arlington as a systems engineer, and I was a contractor during that time. And one thing when COVID hit, first thing that they do is they lay off these contractors. They're like, okay, y'all got to go, like, because we don't know what's going to happen. And So then that's when I got the opportunity to start teaching, which when I graduated high school, I actually wanted to be a teacher. And a lot of people didn't know that. A lot of people just thought, oh, you're just an IT geek. No, it's actually more to that. I love teaching. I love helping people get to that next level in their life. So I started doing that, and I've been teaching IT for 3 years. This is my third year doing it. Just started with a new school called ACI Learning. They do these 2-week boot camps to get individuals prepared to get their CompTIA certifications. They also do cybersecurity, penetration testing, things like that. So y'all, a quick plug, if y'all are looking for a quick boot camp school to go to, they do offer multiple they do offer multiple classes and everything. So yeah, but the one thing I love about this school is the fact that majority of everyone, I'll say 99.9% of everyone are veterans. So I'm teaching IT, and I'm teaching IT to veterans. So I was like, that's the trifecta. And yeah, so it's been great. So I do have 3 kids. I have a 10-year-old daughter, 9-year-old son, 6-year-old son. I do everything for them. I am married and everything. I got remarried to my ex-wife. So if y'all want to hear that story, that's one of those.
There we
That's
go. I had
one
to
of
get those
those.
gunshots right.
Yeah. That's one of those. It's but sometimes you just gotta grow up and figure it out and stuff. So that's pretty much what happened.
Yeah,
So
man. Thank you, man, for that brief intro, man.
oh, no
Um,
problem.
so I want to touch on, like, you just said something cool. Like you said, you was an Active Directory engineer. Is that what you did after you left the help desk? We might be fading a little bit. Let's see.
Did it freeze on us?
Oh, we're good. We're good.
Okay.
So I was saying that you said you were an Active Directory engineer, and I was asking, was that what you did after you left the help desk?
Um. At the help desk, with the TSA, or
Yeah, I'm saying so when you left TSA, what did you go on to do? Because
oh
that's almost that's what 8 years ago now. Yeah.
yeah. So as soon as I left the service desk, I put in that great email. I went and was at IT Field Tech for Weber Construction Company, which is one of the biggest construction companies here in Texas. So if anyone's ever been driving down 635, you see the trucks with Weber on them. I worked for those guys. And great group of guys. Loved working there. It just wasn't, something that I was passionate about. Um, it was an opportunity for me to come back to Texas. Of course, continue to grow my skills, because at that time, all I knew was the service desk or help desk. So that's all I knew. So I wanted to get the other side of things and actually have hands-on experience, whether it's working in a server closet or setting up Wi-Fi access points and stuff like that. I wanted to do a little bit more and like do more face-to-face. So I feel like after doing this help desk for so long, now because you're talking to these individuals, you're talking to them on the phone, so you know how to talk to them, you know how to mentally think about what the problem is, and then you switch over to field service tech. So it's the same thing. It's just now you get to see these individuals face to face. And I'll say one thing about being a field service tech: if someone's mad, they won't be mad at you if you're standing right in front of them. They'll be irritated, but I think it's a difference.
Okay. All right.
I think it's a difference. You can kind of see the sincerity of a technician's if they're really being sincere, like, hey man, I'm sorry you're having this experience. Let me go ahead and help you out. And they're frustrated, and you're like, I know you're frustrated. When they see it you face to face, they just kind of de-escalate a lot faster versus being on the phone. You can't. It's not the same. I feel so.
Yeah, man. I always say that too. Like that's twofold. Like somebody sending you a nasty email, a nasty chat all the time. The energy is never the same in person.
Yeah,
That's probably the difference between remote work and working in the office together. Like if you know you got to see somebody and you just not about like trying to fight somebody, like you're gonna tone it down. You might text somebody about it, but you're not gonna send an email just because you all the way on the West Coast and they're East Coast. So I
yeah,
definitely agree with that sentiment.
yeah.
But that was cool, man. Now let's get into, you're 12 years in. So I like to ask like these different questions because I'm glad I had you on, because right now everybody's trying to chase the same type of jobs, not knowing that there are jobs that are going unfilled simply because some people just don't even know about them. Like I would say roles like IT field service technicians are actually beneficial because you get to work on them soft skills, number one. Number two, you probably get to touch a lot of different things, whether it's hardware, whether it's software related. Also, you can network. So you might be fixing something for a company you may be interested in working in one day. What do jobs like that pay now? If you're familiar with it. I know it was a while ago when you did that, but what do you think like field service technician jobs? What do you think they pay?
So it all depends on the company. As usual, one of the things that I tell all of my students that I've had in the past till now is that your first job, if you don't have a lot of experience, should be help desk or field technician. Being able, like you said, to build those soft skills and really using your troubleshooting skills and building those up is going to help you get further. So, as far as pay compensation, man, like I still get random emails sometimes, and I'm like, do y'all even look at my resume? So I'm not trying to brag or anything. I just was, it was one of those things where I'm just like, I wonder if they really look, or they're just sending it because they see on my resume that I have help desk experience. But I've seen it range from, I would say here in the state of Texas, about 16 to at least about 21. It just depends on the company. Most companies you're going to come in as a contractor, see how you fit, and then go from there. So my current job, my daytime job, so I teach at night and I have a daytime job. I'm a service desk supervisor for a pharmaceutical company. So it's all about where you're located and everything, but they pay fair. So and a lot of people don't know this, is when you look for, get a job and they say, hey, you're going to be a system administrator, right? System administrator can make probably like $30. Well, I would say $15 to $30. A system engineer is going to make a lot more. It's just because of the word administrator and engineer. So, but to answer the question overall, I'll say about 15 to 20, 21, maybe even 25 at certain companies. It just depends on your luck. So, yeah, I can't hear you.
I'm glad you said that about titling, because that's essential. Like when I'm doing resumes for people right now, and let me plug myself right here. We know everybody's trying to get jobs. I mostly help people trying to get into cybersecurity, but I can do regular IT resumes as well. So if you do need help with that, look at my bio, click on my links in the description, and I'll get you right. But one of the things I always say is I'll look at somebody's job title in their description and what they were doing. If I feel like you were doing well, if I know you're doing system administration work, but they're calling you a help desk, I'm going to change the title to system administrator.
Right.
If
And
you're
that is
doing
only
system
fair.
engineering work, right? If you were doing active director, if you're doing identity and access management, I'm going to change it because that's going to get you to be more marketable.
Yeah.
The reason why I tell people now, because honestly, the reason why I was a help desk 2.5 years, 2.5 years too long. After 6 months, listen, after 6 months, I was trying to leave. Like, and I don't know if you were when you started working for them, were you on a contract? Like, were you a subcontractor for somebody?
Yeah,
Because
I
I was
was
through Apex.
I was a subcontractor for Prism. And
Hey, we
I
got
was looking
Ashanti in
in
the
the
chat.
I was looking in the comments. I was like, oh, it's Ashanti. Hey.
Hey, we should bring Ashanti up.
We should.
But I started off with Apex, and Apex, they were smart. They got a lot of us in there, man.
Yeah.
I think they promised a lot of us they was going to double our pay when after like 6 months.
So I think if I recall right, I think it was Apex that would actually come in and like take all of their employees out to eat, and you know,
they would come in for breakfast, butter us
yeah,
up and stuff like that.
yeah. Well, I didn't get any of that, so so it was I with Prism, they were a good company. They brought in some good people and everything that I think. But there was one guy who was there, Steven, when I first started. Me and him started the same week, and he goes and he looks at me and he's like, "Hey man, I don't want to ask how much you're making, but I'm just a little curious." And so I was like, "Oh, well, they're paying me 17 an hour." He's like, "Are you serious?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Why?" I said, "That's what they offered me." And then he's like, "Well, they're paying me 20." And I was like, "Well, good for you. You might have the knowledge." He's like, "No, I don't."
Yeah. And that's why, like, I'm glad, like, in a situation like ours, because everybody's coming in as contractors and we're trying to build this thing out to make it do good. It was a pro and a con to kind of ask like who you are contracting with and see what you're getting paid, because different contractor people were paying like different rates. Like Ram was getting like 35.
Yeah, I remember that.
Ram was eating over there 35, and his contractor actually got him out of the help desk. And before I keep on going, I just want to tell everybody, Ashanti was one of the, I forgot how many black women managers have I had. I want to say Ashanti, and I want to say, how you say her name? Was it like Lamikia?
I remember who you're talking about. And I'm bad with names,
but yeah, those two. But Ashanti
recall.
was like my first, and corporate wise, black woman manager, and hey, she always looked out for me. She trained us. She did a good job training us. So that's why our class was like so good, because she gave us some good training. Now, I can't speak for everybody else that managed me, because I feel like they didn't look out for me like that. And we may get into that. But Ram, so he was with ASAP. I forgot who everyone else is. But see, and this is also like key, guys. If you do sign a contract, right, pay attention to it, because sometimes it's going to say, well, free game. I'm going to go full screen real quick here. I'll go full screen. All right, so free game. When they reach out to you about a contract position, try to get as much money as you can at the bandwidth, like the highest they'll pay. Try to get that. 2, ask about, hey, if this contract's a hire, ask about what's the conversion rate. Because what'll happen is, let's say for instance, you are getting $40 an hour on contract. Sometimes when you convert, they'll probably knock you down to 32 or 33, because they're going to say, oh, well, we got to give you benefits. We got to pay for retirement stuff and all that. So try to understand that, because sometimes that's not clearly understood, and then you're upset when you switch over and your pay goes down, but you do have a little bit better benefits. Like for us being contractors at the time of Apex, we really didn't have any PTO. So it's like either you worked enough so where when you was off, you wouldn't be affected, or you just took that L. So those are some of the things you need to look into, because that can hurt you. And also for us, we thought after the 6 months we can go to another contractor. When we signed the contract, we actually signed that, hey, when our tenure with Apex is up, we were going to go into CSC and work for them. So there was nothing we could do. Contractually, we had to convert. We couldn't go to the ASAPs and try to get the money we wanted to get from them that everybody's trying to do. So we had to get over. And third, when you do convert, you still have room to negotiate. Now, I did negotiate to get more pay because when they tried to convert me, I think they tried to offer me like 70 cents more. So I converted. I think I got like $3 more, but I could have got more. I just have anybody to say, nah, man, you got credentials, you didn't prove your value over a year. You could probably get $23, $24 out of them. So I could have pushed for that. And the worst thing they could say is no. So always when you're going through these contract negotiations, negotiate. If you don't have anybody to reach out to, you can reach out to me. I'll help you. Reach out to Greg. Just reach out to somebody because you want to get all your money because money today is not promised tomorrow. That's why I say get all you can while you can now.
Amen.
And Rod, see, we'll get to y'all questions later on. But yeah, I had to get that off my chest because it was like, man, I'm talking about I've told the story plenty of times before. So before I started working at the service desk, I was working for Target, and I did hard lines at Target. I did that all on and off throughout college, so I was back working there a little while, just mass blasting, applying to roles because I didn't really have a job search strategy. And I think they found me on Indeed or something like that, prompt me for the interview pass that they brought me on. But when Rachel was the name of the recruiter from Apex, she called me. I like at the time I was making $7.75 at Target, and she was like 17. That was a win is a win. That was a win for me. So I tried to push for more through Rachel, but she was trying to say based on experience. And I was just like, if I knew what I knew now, I said, no, y'all got to push me to the 19 because they were paying up to like 19. And I was like, a lot of people they probably had experience, but they didn't have education. And I did. And it's not the end all be all, but hey, if I'm gonna spend money on education, I need to use it to get my money's worth. That's really just what you got to do. But she said, hey, when you start off with 17, you're gonna make like 30 something in like 6 months. So that really it's like, oh shoot, I can do 30 something. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be balling out because I started calculating. But what ended up happening is that I think CSC and Apex renegotiate their terms of when they got these people from Apex, but didn't tell us. So when the first team that Apex ever brought on converted, that's when we found out we weren't gonna get that 30.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it started. Like, I guess you want to use the word like a mutiny or something, like between all them, because they was finding out. I forgot what her name was. She signed for something. Josh said he got this. Saphir got whatever. Like, it was a lot. Then it came down to us. Like, it took me a while. I was supposed to convert before the end of 2014. I didn't convert until like February or something like that in 2015.
I remember that because like y'all had, believe it or not, to me, when we got out to Bossier, and everyone was telling us about Apex and their contract and how it was only going to be so many months and then they get converted over. I was like, man, that's really good. And then when, like you said, the first group did get converted over, everyone came in the next day and it was like, oh man, I only got this, I only got that. So yeah. And just to add on to what you're saying about contract rules. So these contractors, they have a range, right? And they're always going to stick somewhere in the middle so that they have, extra money or whatever. If you get a good contractor, like one of the best contractors I had was when I got hired on at the city of Arlington. She reached out to me. She said, hey, Greg, this is what they're going to pay. They're going to pay you $110 a year. So, break that down. That's what, $60 an hour. It was $55 an hour. So, and she's like, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to push for at least 60 to 61 because I know that you're going to be a contract role. So you're going to need insurance because you have kids. I feel like when contractors look out for you and your family, that's a contract that you want to try to get with. they're pushing for more for you. They already got their money, and whatever money that they don't use, I believe that they can still keep. I don't quote me on that. I'm not sure, but um, that's one of the key things that I look for. If a contractor calls me and they're like, "Hey, if you're interested, we'll start you off with this, but we're gonna push for this because we want to make sure that you're taken care of, your family's taken care of." You really don't see that a lot because they're trying to do is just get a name on a paper and everything. And one thing I will say is, when you're looking for those jobs and you start signing up for different places and everything, and they send you an email and they're saying, "Hey, this role over here is remote. If you're interested, fill out this information, your name, your birthday, your social, all that stuff, all that information you think is legit." Don't do that. Please don't do that. So
Hey, listen, I'm glad you said that, because I didn't have to do all that when I worked for Apex, right? When these people reach out to me now, they'll try to do that. And I'm like, when they only need my last four social, whatever, when I'm actually filling out payment information.
exactly.
Why do you need this? Dude was harassing me. Like, this dude harassed me for a role at Lumen, and it was like a senior level SOC analyst role. This is recently. Like, I'm gonna find an email when I let Greg go solo. And I was okay. What's the interview process like? Oh, one interview. So that was red flag number one. Why would a senior level security role do one interview? And what he didn't know is I had already applied to this role on Lumen's actual career site. So I was just like, I would never go through a contractor if I could find a role on their thing. I'll just apply to the company itself.
Yep.
And he kept on pestering me and calling me, "Okay, I need the information." I said, "All right, whatever." I was just ignoring him because I was like, nah, because I also went through that a lot in 2018 when I had got laid off. Like, all these different people, "Oh, we want to represent you," and blah, blah, blah. Sometimes you interview with them and then never hear again. It's like some of these, it's like, and that's the thing too, is like when it comes to like LinkedIn and all this stuff like that, I'm like telling people, like, LinkedIn got to do a better job of really seeing who is a recruiter for some of these companies, who not. And I don't want to say it live on what kind of recruiters to kind of avoid. I'm just gonna say, go on LinkedIn and see who reaches out to you the most with like fraudulent contracts first. And that's your answer.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna say it on the thing. Maybe that's Patreon level information. And look, y'all see the ticker is going through the bottom of the screen for my Patreon. I have 2 exclusive videos that will probably not be on YouTube until like March or April. And they're very pivotal in like my career right now. So if you want to check out some exclusive content about what I have going on currently, I would highly suggest that you check out the Patreon. I've been giving out free game, free thank you letter, templates, resume tips, you name it, all on the Patreon. Go ahead and go subscribe to the Patreon. But yeah, man. So tell us a little bit now about transitioning where you wanted to, you were a lead at one point, but then let's talk about being the supervisor that you are doing now, and in the industry you're in as well. Because that's also one of the things I want to start pushing too. A lot of people that's trying to go and get into tech are focusing on like big tech companies, right? But they're not really looking at industries. So you could get, for example, let's say you wanted to be in oil and gas. So you said, I'm going to go work at Exxon. I'm going to go work at Chevron. I'm going to go work at wherever. They rarely have issues where they're doing a mass layoff for people.
Yeah.
Even some of the, we've seen some layoffs with the financial companies, kind of, but they've not have been as big as the big tech companies. Most of the time, they're pretty solid. Banks will get bailed out if something really goes bad, like we saw in 2008. So kind of pay attention to industries that are always here and needed, instead of just chasing the name and the allure of just working somewhere, especially if you're a non-technical professional. See, technical workers most of the time are going to fare better if they're deemed to be valuable to that company. They're gonna fare better than the people that are non-technical. That's just my opinion, and kind of what I've been seeing from the data, just from most of the LinkedIn posts, has been mostly non-technical workers being affected. Granted, and they're super important. I don't know why they see them as being so disposable. And we'll talk about that later, about why I always tell people to really look out for themselves in their career, because no one else will. But go ahead and talk about like kind of what you're doing in that pharmacy industry and what you've been seeing IT wise.
Yeah. So the company I work for is called Vita Pharmacy. They are one of the and this is quote the CEO. You know, we're one of the leading healthcare providers in the lower income LGBT community. So you know, when I first got hired on with them, I actually did not find them. They found me. Uh, so they reached out to me. I was like, can I apply for this? And at the time, I was like, maybe I did, maybe I didn't. And then they straight up told me, they're like, no, we found your resume. We thought you'd be a good fit. Um, so I've always loved working in the healthcare industry. And the reason why is because I love knowing that what I'm doing and making sure that our system is up and running and everything's being taken care of on our end affects our staff, the nurses, the pharmacists, medical assistants, doctors, you know, wherever I was, Baylor Scott and White and Avita Pharmacy. Um, and that ultimately helps the patient. So that is why I stick with the healthcare industry. Another big reason why I love it too is because you're always going to need healthcare. You're always going to need healthcare. Um, so, you know, that is just one thing that I have a personal feeling towards it. But if you're looking at the job market and everything, what's always on top is IT and healthcare. So those roles are always going to be needed. I feel like a lot of people, especially when they get to a good hospital and everything, and they get in the IT field, those you're not seeing a lot of turnaround like that. You actually don't. So you know, if you're looking, if there's a specific industry that you're looking for, I mean, I would advise to, you know, go Department of Labor, kind of look at the trends and everything, listen to the news, see what's going on with politics and everything. Because if a lot of people don't know, if you don't listen to the news, you know, we're about to hit the debt ceiling and might be one of those situations where they close the government down. So that's kind of why I steer away from government work because of all the craziness in Washington. Not saying it's bad to work for the government. It's just you can't really control a lot. You know, healthcare is always going to be needed, but government, they can, hey, we don't want this program anymore, so they just shut it down. So and to answer the other question about the supervisor roles, so I'll say this: when I got into the field, the industry, IT, I did not ultimately know where I wanted to go. Being at the service desk and being able to see and meet different people and the different teams kind of gave me an insight of where I wanted to go. I was like, yeah, I want to work on the server side. I want to take care of, you know, Active Directory and you know, things like that, and really focus on that part of it. That's kind of how I guided my way through my career. And then after a while, you want those bigger jobs. You feel like, hey, I have enough experience to become a manager, and you go look for a manager position, and they want you to have 10 plus years of experience. And at the time, I only had like 4, 5 and stuff. So it's a waiting game. It's a waiting game, but it's also one of those things where you can be at a company and they recognize your talent and you can get moved up really quickly, which is exactly what happened with Avita. I started off just because it was like during COVID, actually. I started off as a level 1 service desk engineer. Within 3 months, I was a level 2. Within 6 months, I was a level 3 lead. And then I have been there. So I stayed as a level 3 for like almost 7, 8 months. And then they promoted me to a supervisor. So, and I'm going on my second year with them. So within 2 years, I made it to supervisor. And my personal ultimate goal is to become a director or CIO one day. So I'm back in school getting my master's right now. So I always set those goals for myself. And I believe that everyone should set your goals. Set a goal that you can achieve this month, in 6 months, in a year, and try to reach those goals, whether it's certifications, whether it's additional trainings and stuff like that. And you let your managers know what you're doing, because a good manager, a good supervisor is going to have talks with you, one-on-ones with you. When you do that and you let them know this is my goal, they should be helping you. They should be trying to provide you additional trainings, or say, hey, okay, for 1 hour, I want you to work in Pluralsight or LinkedIn Learning or something to kind of help you get there. So that's kind of how I look at being a supervisor. I'm in a good role to help others get to where they want to be, and manage them to continue to do good so that they can get promoted. So yeah, I hope that answered the question. I know I kind of went left and right.
No, it definitely answered the question. Now we're going to actually get into like the fun part of like a lot of people clicked on this because it says like working IT help desk for TSA, and we briefly talked about it earlier, but we don't talk about it. And we can go from both standpoints, right? I'm gonna go off of what I remember when I first started, right? So Greg was a 1.5, which is like you said, it's like a step over a level 1. I was a level 1. And we didn't work like, we worked with end users, but we didn't like deal with anybody's money or anything like that. It was mostly software issues. If they had a hardware issue, we could do the IT thing. Hey, did you try to turn off and turn on? If not, we can assign it to that airport site's IT specialist. But typically a normal day, if you work day shift, you might do 30, 35 calls. We supported all like every TSA airport, and then we started supporting the federal air marshals, which we'll actually talk about a funny story about that in a second. And commonly, like every day, which I'm not gonna lie, this stuff was like beneficial for me even in my career now, just of the how I can think on the fly. Like I had a live stream a couple of weeks ago when I was doing a webinar pretty much on how to get into cybersecurity, and it wouldn't let me share my screen because I didn't do something in the background on my Mac. So I found a quick workaround of just making the resumes I was going to share banners, and was able just to show them like that. And that's just like one of those things I learned just thinking on the fly when it comes to doing help desk. And that's why I think it can be beneficial, just showing you like kind of really troubleshoot and figure some stuff out. But we typically handle, now when I started, exchange issues would be simple as maybe somebody's not on the correct server, or they can't receive mail, whether they need their archives files to be made. We would deal with password resets. I want to say we used to use NetIQ at first, right?
I don't recall.
It was some. Remember, it wasn't active. It was, Active Directory was connected to it, but we actually had like this third-party application, right?
Again, you may be right. I don't recall. Look, when I was out there, I will say this on the side, and Shanti, I'm sorry if you're still. I had a lot of fun in Louisiana, and
all the time.
all the time. So,
right.
So I don't recall, a lot of the specific details about it. But I mean, if you're okay, I want to share my first day.
Oh yeah.
Store.
Cool.
So my first day actually being on the phones and stuff like that. So again, just kind of getting into IT, having to remember everything that I learned from school. And Shanti, she was a great trainer. So I loved her training because she made it fun. She made it simple. It was easy to follow along with, and she was always there if you had any questions about anything. So I do really appreciate her being that guiding figure, and really always stepping up and helping everyone. And at that time, The Walking Dead was a popular show, and I think I was the only one in this help desk who didn't watch it. So So everyone would come in the next week, like, did you watch Walking Dead? But that wasn't my story. You have mentioned Outlook. So yeah, there was Outlook issues all the time, and there's pretty common in everything. So my first day, I was sitting there. I got a few phone calls for password resets. I'm like, bam, done. Bam. Okay, this is easy. And then I get one call where it was about Outlook, and their Outlook wasn't syncing. And I'm trying to figure it out, but at the time, I didn't remember everything. So I'm asking, people around me, and, they're helping me out and everything. And then I get another Outlook call and another Outlook call. And of course, I'm still asking. And so this one guy, and we're still friends to this day. But he was talking to me like I was on a break, and I walked to the cubicle behind me and everything. He was a few cubicles, and he's like, "Oh my God, there's a guy out there that doesn't know crap about Outlook." And I'm just like, "Yeah, that guy's me." So he was like, he felt so bad because he didn't know who exactly it was. That he took the time to actually like give me a Outlook tutorial. So that was my first day. I mean, yeah, I was embarrassed, but when he found out it was me and he's talking smack, he was even more embarrassed. So yeah, I just I just wanted to share that.
Our first day was so when everybody got hired, we didn't know it was gonna be on help desk. We got the training, and Ashanti, she was in the chat. She had messaged me outside of the stream, but that's when she informed us. Yeah, y'all gonna be talking on the phone. So everybody said, "What on the phone?" So it's nervous. Our training really consisted of like just driving and act like we we're talking, but the shadowing was like when we kind of seen like how you do different things, and I think that was pretty cool to do the shadowing. But
That's
taking
always
those
good.
phone calls, shoot, I know my hands were sweating the kind of first couple of calls that I took, just being nervous. And it took so long to get you access, so you had to rely on people in the chat to get your password to you. So we reaching out to y'all, hey, we need a password, and getting it from you guys. And people, hey, what's taking so long? Hang on, just give me a second. And trying not to be an ox too long. Just making sure, like all those little things, man. So for me, I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Like we were, I think when we started, we were still using Beds. So BlackBerry Enterprise, Manager was using that.
Yeah.
And that used to be a little tough to help people configure. But then once that went away, we moved on to Good for Enterprise. But let's talk about like some funny stuff. You were gone already, but it's not funny because technically I could have died. But it's funny when I look back at it. One night doing overtime, I'm driving to go to work. I get in a bad wreck. The person who hits me in the wreck sat literally directly next to me at work. He stayed in the Villaggio apartments right there. And he's talking about, man, I was just trying to go get something to eat. But we were talking about that the other night. I was like, that's kind of funny. It's like, what are the odds the person that sits next to you at work runs into you, totals your car? And I use that as a silver lining moment, because once I got the wreck, I said, cool, I'm gonna get some money. I'm gonna go ahead and get this Mustang I'm in one. and that's how I got the first that first Mustang. But all in all, the help desk was like fun in a sense because it had so many different characters there.
Right.
So many different people. Like I said, I've named them earlier. You, Paul, Josh, Sophie. I think her name was like Melissa, Daryl, my guy Chris. It was like so many different people. I know I'm missing some people. I mean, you got Cheryl, Vicky.
Cheryl and Vicky. Oh man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Vicky, I love Vicky. She started, I don't remember exactly when she started, but she came from Texas over there to Bossier with us. And at the time, her and I really never talked when we were in Texas. But once we got to Louisiana, I mean, we were like this. So she was I'll say a little rough around the edges if you didn't know her. But once you got to know her and how she is, she was amazing. She was so amazing. And Cheryl, she was a sweetheart.
Yeah, that QA was you had to make sure you was at that 97 or 99% and doing all those FCRs. Really all those KPIs that we had to do, closing out all those tickets.
I'm trying to think of the name of the woman that was in Washington, and she worked in Washington, and she worked remote, but I can't remember her name, but she always, even after I left the help desk, she always kept in touch with me, and she
Black
even
lady?
made it. No, she was white.
Rosa?
No, not Rosa. Maybe it was Virginia. She worked in Virginia, but it was like DC area.
I think I may know you talking about, but I don't know right off the bat.
Yeah,
I don't know off the bat.
It is so, but I have to look it up on her name up on LinkedIn. But she I don't know why, but she loved me. Like she was like, "Hey, Greg," all the time she just talked to me. She even came down to Texas to visit me like 3 years after I left the help desk. So, I was like, huh. So, but I mean, all in all, she was a sweetheart. But yeah, there was some great characters. The girl who sat next to me, because I sat in the front, and the white girl that sat next to me.
Melissa?
No, it was.
She knew Unix.
No, I know who Melissa is, but she was real skinny, kind of a hippie like. She sat next to me, but she, like, her and I, we were like complete opposites. And then as soon as we started sitting with each other, and you develop that rapport over time, so you never know what you're gonna get. And then
we had Chris Hawkins there, John.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see who was Talithia, Quintina, and Maya. Jesus and my guy Saul. Saul was cool.
Me and Saul hanged out every single day. So you remember Antonio? Yep. Me, Saul, Carla hanged out every single day, and I still talk to Carla till this day.
How's she doing?
She's good. She's good. When I talked to her, it was a few months ago. She was in Colorado. Her and her husband are in Colorado. So I haven't heard from Saul, so I hope he's doing good. But one day we was hanging out, and if you remember Antonio.
I don't remember Antonio. I think I seen him maybe outside, like with Saul. Did he do Wintel? Did he work Wintel?
No, he was on level 1. So he's actually down in Houston now. He does cybersecurity. He's a supervisor and everything. So he helped me out, a lot when I was with my other school. We would want supervisors to come in and see how our program was. Well, one day, he and I, him, Saul, Carla, and another guy who wasn't at the help desk. He was a guy from England, actually, and he was my friend, and we all hanged out. So we go out, and knowing the next day or that night, Antonio and I have to work. So we go out during the day. So it was on a weekend. We go out during the day, and we're all downtown and just having fun, having a blast. Well, time to go to work, 6, 7 o'clock at night, time to go to work. And, I'm okay. I'm okay. It's a long night, but I'm okay. This guy fell asleep, not under his desk, but on top of his desk. Not like laying down with your head down, like curled up in the fetal position on his desk. So I was like,
I've slept. I think I had a blanket. I've slept under my desk too because it had like
yeah,
real
you
dark under
did.
there.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, look, let's talk about that. Look, y'all. So it's like I'm like 2 or 3 months in. I'm working night shift. Greg is working night shift, or either he was doing overtime at the time. And we're supposed to have a greeting when they call. So when they call, we'll say, thank you for calling the TSA IT service desk. My name is so-and-so. How may I help you or whatever, right? Well, I was asleep and I had my phone on speaker and it went doom. And so I said, hello. Lo and behold, the supervisor of the help desk is Steve Roundtree. He calls in, so I get his call and he's like, hey, that's not how you're supposed to answer the phone. And I forgot what he was saying. And I was really delirious at the time. So that call canceled. And then he called back. Guy Greg, he was like, he just probably took a lot of calls and he's just tired. It's okay. I was so scared, bro. I thought I just got fired because I was like, I don't even know why I know why I was asleep at that time. Because hey, it used to be so slow. Like at nighttime, y'all, okay, we talk about like the fun we had, like the fun parts. When we first started, well, by the time Greg got there, and then when I started to work, they was hitting us with the email saying, unlimited overtime, come in whenever you want to.
Mm-hmm.
And so back then, we had laptops and they had DVD drives, CD drives. So I went to Game Exchange and I bought some DVDs. They was cheap. And so at nighttime, I would just watch a couple of DVDs, take about 3-4 calls, and get off in the morning and have my day. I'm talking about like easy money. I can't remember when that stopped. I think that stopped like 2015. Because I was doing probably about 2 days because I was like doing like 4 10s at the time, I think.
Yeah, I know that it was crazy because it went on for a good couple of months, and then they stopped it for a little bit, and then I guess they brought it back. But yeah, the weekend shift was always my favorite, especially Sundays during football season. So we had the board with our SLAs and call times on there and stuff like that, and we would change it.
And I was telling my boy Chris about that. Like they thought they could put a thing over so we can change it. They didn't know that. Like I had a Samsung phone with the IR blaster. So I knew it was a Sharp TV, so it would let me change it on football, and anybody else could do the same thing. So, because you had to make it like worse and wild, like they would have to know, okay, it's not that many calls come down on the weekend, so you just want us to sit here. Like I used to watch. See, back in the day before the security seems to block everything, that's how I started watching Power. I had this little free site, and I was watching Power, and then eventually they would start blocking the sites because they would see us watching these shows.
Mm-hmm.
But then I should be on YouTube heavy. But one of the cons of working through the government or for the government is the fact that it's so controlled that they're always behind or there's not a lot of stuff happening when you're working in the government. So it's fairly easy. So when you're trying to transition out of leaving a role like that, you may not have some of the experience that other companies may be looking for if it's not government, because in the government role, you got somebody you can send to for cell phones. You got the printer team. You got the networking team. You got the imaging. If you could think of it, they got a team for it. They create a spot just for it, and that's all they do. You got the messaging team. Well, when you're trying to go to other jobs, they want you to know how to do all this stuff. And I say, oh, well, if I can't do it, I just escalate it to somebody. So it's kind of like one of the things that kind of like prevents you sometimes from going around. However, if you had friends in other departments, typically they could possibly show you what they was doing because they worked out the queues. They didn't work on the phone calls. And that's probably like the only thing I was really started getting tired of, like doing the help desk days. A hard day of taking like 40, 45 calls. I didn't want to talk to nobody when I got off. So you've got a girlfriend or kids or something like that. They trying to talk and they want to talk on the phone. I don't feel like talking to nobody right now.
Yeah, that was the worst. I mean, especially Monday mornings, starting from 5:30, maybe 5 to at least 9, 10 o'clock was just call after call after call. And by that time, you're just burnt out. You're like, when is my lunch? And then once you go to lunch, you kind of reset, and then you come back and you're like, I thought y'all handled all these calls. Nope, it keeps on coming in. But one of the worst things that I hated was I'm sitting there and I get a call, and then I answer, fix it, hang up, get another call, answer, fix it, get another call. Because there's a round robin, right? So it goes from one person to another person to another person. So by that second, third call, I look about the board and that board is red. 100 and something calls waiting in the queue. Man, those days were always the worst. And if it was the easy fix, I'm like, whatever, it helps my numbers. But on top of that, you got to create your tickets. You got to put everything that you did in there. And so it's like, you really don't have time. And so,
Man,
yeah.
let's talk about, I ain't gonna lie. I used to hate, because that's the sucky part. When you get super good at your job, you can knock out calls like this because you already know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But you might have, you might have did 4 calls at the back. The person next to you was on the same easy call. And you're like, hold on. So sometimes I would purposely probably let my call go on longer. Just say, okay, well, I'll wait while your machine restarts, stuff like that, because I'm not trying to hear a doom like time I just got through talking to somebody. Like them days, you'll be frustrated. Like, come on, man. Like, I know everybody can't. Like, what are y'all working on? That it's not that hard. Like, what's going on? But
right.
The variable in all this is some of your calls depending on how computer literate your end user was.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I will say this one, when I started, it was probably like 3 months in, this one woman, super sweet woman, would call in every single day and have her password reset because she forgot. And so I would get her every once,
Batman
every day.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah. She's like, well, I don't know what to use. And I'm like, well, what's in front of you? And she's like, oh, there's a picture. I'm like, okay, well, let's use that picture. Does it have any writing on it? Like, pick out a word. Let's change a few things on it, put a special character here, a number at the end, and you're good, right? So one day she called in, and I swear she called in about 15 times because everyone on the help desk got her. And they were like, are you talking to so-and-so again? Yeah, I just reset her password. Well, she still can't get in. So again, being young and still learning at that time and knowing what I know now, I would have been like, okay, she's, after that second, third time, I probably would have started looking at her Active Directory credentials and be like, what's going on? Because there might be a sync issue, like where maybe something's cached on her computer and now it's not recognizing that when it changes on the domain, it goes through.
Yep.
So,
because we had to use that. By then we got out of the other program. We started actually using the Active Directory and then the lockout status tool and looking at the domains and seeing where it was locked out on.
Yeah. So, I mean, once she got fixed, so either one or two things happened. She got fixed and never had another IT issue, or they let her go. So I don't know exactly.
No, but then you remember, so they was so fed up with all those password resets. Like, okay, we're gonna fix them. We're gonna make everybody use PIV cards. And man, we had to get our own like PIV cat cards and have to use them in our machines as well. But that was the biggest change for them because people forget their pins.
Yeah.
Then we had to do the relax policy, so you had to verify them with whatever number they had in iShare, or like just a whole bunch of stuff. Like I've told people in past, it's like how they might not think they're doing some cybersecurity stuff, but they are. I was talking about how we used to use Anacam, and Anacam is pretty much used for 2-factor authentication. And having to make sure that stuff is legitimate or sending them like a code so they can get on OWA. So I don't know, man. It was like I said, in the time span, you like learned a lot, but then it's like if you wanted to do more, it just kind of like, plateaued.
It was
you
always
at a certain way.
Yeah, it was always hard to kind of motivate yourself. There's always good people like Saul and Carla. I because I hanged out with them all the time, they would show me additional stuff, especially Saul. Saul was, already at that tier 2 level. He moved over to mobile management as well, and he became the supervisor for that team. So, and he had a lot of knowledge and everything. So one of the things that I, again, tell my students is when you go in, look for someone who's doing good. Look, find a mentor, someone who you want to emulate and become. So, you're going to have to take the good with the bad and everything, and of course, throw out the bad and keep the good. But there was one guy in Fort Worth who was, I saw him and I always talked to him and everything. So I would, if I escalated a ticket, one of the things that I did was to go over and find out who had that ticket. I can go back and see it. I write it down, go back, see it. And then once they fixed it, I'm like reading through it, and then I'll come and talk to them. Hey, I read you did this and this and this. Why does this happen? And so that's additional knowledge that I'm gaining. And so that is a key thing for every person to do, is to have someone to mentor or you want to emulate and just continue to learn. You in the IT field, you're never going to stop learning. You're always going to have to continue to learn because it changes every day.
Yeah, funny that you said that, because I must have pestered Saul about every day, because I had the best seat. I had the best seat in the help desk. The reason why I was able to get so good so fast is because I sat by Saul, Jesus, and then eventually Carla came over there.
Yeah.
So every day I'll probably say, hey, Saul, how you do this? How you do this? But I was taking mental notes. So eventually I got to the point where I didn't have to ask Saul anymore. Because even back then, like, hey, somebody can't access, their Z drive or whatever. And so once they show, okay, this is how we go in Active Directory. At first, we didn't have access to it, but then after that, we had access. They would show us what they would do. The Z drive would already be created. We just go in and kind of remove something, put it back, and hit activate, and then go through, and then we'll add. But just like simple things like that. But it helped out. That's what I did pretty much in like every role. When I got to like my SOC roles, I found somebody who knew way more than me, learned from him. When I went to Optiv, I learned from the principal guy. I learned like pretty much every time I didn't have the answer, I already did all my due diligence. He'd be willing to help me, or he'll just say, let's jump on the car real quick so I can show you this. And that's that's literally how you do it. And if you do it the right way, that person like has belief in you. He knows you know how to do it. And they will actually talk good about you there. When that's like, this person is really put in the work to get better. Like, ask them, they know the answers. And that's how I started getting elevated with our client at the time.
Yeah, and I want one thing. About Saul, wherever he is, I'm sure he's doing good. Last thing I heard about him was he was going up to Washington to work up there. So I don't know if he took it or not, but he was always one of those guys that he would stop what he's doing to help others, and and it showed that he was just a person willing to help. And so big kudos to him and all the individuals like that. My role as a supervisor, now my manager is showing me the ropes. And I told her the other day, I said, look, sometimes I feel like I'm not doing a good enough job. And that's just part of it, when especially in any role, when you get into these roles, especially starting your IT career, you're going to feel like you're not doing good enough. That's a normal feeling, so just keep at it. Those feelings, they do go away, because you're going to end up getting a ticket that is going to be really hard, and you're going to figure it out. And then that's it's going to give you over that hump, and boost your confidence. So, and even once you make it up the ladder, we still have those confidence days. Like, we just need that one win to get us over that hump. So, don't be afraid to make mistakes. And when you do make mistakes, one of the things that I hated in starting at the help desk is if someone made a mistake and it was like a big mistake, they would blast the whole team. They're like, who did this? Well, who did it, go look at the tickets.
What?
But yeah, it was just one of those like, why am I getting this email when you know who did it? Because they constantly do it and you're not addressing it, but yet you're addressing it with the whole team. So yeah.
Yeah, I just thought about like some funny stuff. One funny thing was about when they moved to the PIV cars, we had this dude who needed his machine relaxed every day. His name was Saswayo. And he would spell it out like Saswayo. He talked just like that. He was
Oh,
I think he's an IT specialist or something. I can't remember what he
yeah,
was.
he was. Yeah, he was one of the airport techs and everything.
Yeah,
He would be so monotone.
yeah,
Yeah, I remember that dude.
yeah. He would but eventually I think Terry might have fixed it for him one day. I don't know if you remember old Terry.
Yeah, yeah,
Older.
yeah.
He about my I think Terry about my dad age. What up, Deep? What up, Deep? Come in dapping everybody up with his dry clean shirts and stuff on, sitting down finna get him a good nap while he worked too.
There you go.
And speaking of man, audience, so check this out. So one of the benefits, and this is one of the things I do in interviews now, right? So I'm gonna give you another interview tip, right? Understand what the company that you're trying to work for does and what type of service it provides, so you can kind of get an understanding when you're interviewing, talking about how you know, like how important you know your job is, even though sometimes you might think it's small. So granted, we did help desk, but our job still was pretty important for the sense that we're helping out, screeners, anybody that works in TSA, all these different things, so people can be safe in the airport. And so sometimes you might say, "Oh, you're just doing help desk," but no, we were contributing to something bigger than us, and that gets me into us. We started supporting the federal air marshals, and if anybody is, don't know what a federal air marshal is, go watch Passenger 57 with Wesley Snipes. That's like a good movie right there for you to watch right there. But the funny thing about it, y'all, is like they told us we were supporting these people with no training, with no training information. Literally flipped the switch on us one Sunday, and we started getting the calls, and they're talking about stuff we never seen before. I think everybody probably got a FAM call at the same time, to where we didn't know what to do. We just had to call people. I think I had to call Steve either on my personal phone or something. It's like, hey, I don't know what this guy's looking at. We don't have access to know what he's looking at. How do we walk these guys through their issue? And that was the hardest part. Is like, we don't even know what you're looking at. Like, I think they used to use some type of platform, some crap they used to use.
It was a little different from what we were used to. And then because they just flipped the switch, a lot of them had, like, first thing you do is, okay, what's your name? And you get their name, and they wouldn't even be in the system, and you're like, okay, well, yeah, I'm a federal air marshal. Okay, like, that's nice, but what? I don't know what you want us to do. So yeah, that was a horrible hiccup on whoever turned
Right.
that switch on. And one of the things that I think, if in every department you're going to have issues, but I think with the help desk is, especially if you have a big help desk, is communication, relaying communication out to everyone. There are so many times, and from help desk, field tech, system engineer, active directory engineer, that things happen and you don't know about it because no one sent out an email. Communication is always key, especially at the help desk. If you don't let your frontline workers know that, hey, we're going to be doing this, what's going to happen? Well, you're leaving them in the blind. It's going to ruin your SLAs. It's going to frustrate everyone. So I am a big advocate about just sending out that email and saying, hey, this is what's going on. Additional training coming. If you have a call come in, go ahead and get their names and send it over here or something. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. We basically got, thrown into the deep end, and that was it. You either sink or swim in that case. And a lot of us, struggled with that. So, that's another reason why you don't have a lot of people staying at the help desk, service desk for a long time, is because the lack of communication, the lack of additional training. It's not going to hurt management to take 3-4 people off the phones one day out of the week and everything, and say, hey, we're going to give you some additional training just to make sure that you're on top of your stuff. Or or even a suggestion, it's like where they can send an email saying, hey, I want more help on this. I want to learn more about this. You have to provide that additional training, and not just rely on it themselves, because some people just, they'll go and watch YouTube videos, and now there's great YouTube videos for everything. But back then, there wasn't. So, but it's just one of those things where, I think a lot of managers need to know that if you don't communicate with your team, you're going to fail.
Yeah. And another issue that I'm surprised you can bring up is really the pay is why a lot of people leave too. It's one of the more important jobs, but yet not treated, fairly. But you do way more work. We did more work than every other department in that building and got paid less for it.
Yeah.
And that was like, the kicker is like, because think about it. I know from working in security operations, forget looking for all these technicians and technical stuff or whatever. But if you have a good team, it's really hard to do bad. Mm-hmm. And so you start losing a lot of key components of a good team because they don't feel appreciated. They don't feel paid correctly. So if you neglect them and don't pay them right, because like we know now, nothing has got cheaper.
Oh yeah, and it's
so
not. It's
right. So if you don't give people decent like increments and raises every year, and or any or other incentives to say, hey, we can't get you a raise, but if you stay in an apartment, what we can do is we have a stipend where we can pay half of it or something, like some type of thing that can help you without you just having to keep on bouncing around so you can get your money. That's what happens. And it's really not just that really isn't a pot of help. That applies everywhere. You don't look at a company, like even personally right now, I looked at, they sent out an email last week. Oh yeah, we had a great Q4. We did this. This was up. This was up. We made all this money. Yet when it comes to comp time, okay, yeah, here's your bonus, and your base is going to stay the same. Price of eggs ain't stay the same.
Exactly.
Apartment costs ain't stay the same. Like all these things that are like way more expensive did not stay the same. Yet you want the same loyalty and the same work out of them. But you're still making more money, but they aren't.
Yeah. So I'm kind of in between on this, where every 6 months or every year you get a raise, right? That's always what I've always been used to. Well, the company that I work for now, it's not like that. It's performance based. So the better you perform, the more incentive they can give you. But of course, you have to kind of, me as a supervisor now I have to track everyone and what they're doing. Like, okay, they're meeting the standards or they're exceeding the standards. And they're helping out with projects. They're volunteering for this and this and this, and then go and then try to get them a raise. But yeah, I mean, even with bonuses and everything, like our Christmas bonus this year was $75. And I was like, that is a tank of gas because I drive a truck. It was like that. Thank you for paying for my gas. But yeah, everything is going up, and you're right. You lose good employees either because of bad management, pay, or it's just something else. Maybe that's just not their fit. So how do you keep these individuals to stick around? Well, you want to be fair to them and everything. And sometimes you're in that position where, hey, I can only give you this much. But I think one thing about the help desk is that you have so many people in the IT field, not just younger people coming out of school, but you have older people who are trying to transition, that they're like, oh, you leave, we'll just find someone else. We don't care. You're just a number. And they're not getting treated like they're actually part of the company. They're like, you're just a number. You come in here, you answer phones, you go home, and that's it. And that's not the way to do it. Have something. Hey, Pizza Fridays, bring in donuts. The little things are big wins in the end. You know, someone might be having a bad day. They come
Flex
in.
Fridays.
Yeah, you know, they come in, they're having a bad morning. They come in, oh man, there's donuts. You know, my day's turning around already. Because last thing you want is a grumpy tech on the phone.
Yeah, so
people.
And this might be another thing for me to do a live stream on is like the in between of being, you know, hybrid, you know, remote, full time, like going to office now. Like there was a period of time where it's like was cool, all the office space. You know, like I know, like my first experience with this was like when I started working at Intel, which became McAfee, in Plano. They had a cafeteria, and they had like a huge, like it was nice, and you can go get your food at any given time, go get coffee. They would have different things going on over there. It's like it was like one of my first times that the team got taken out to eat, you know, and they paid for it. So I did get to experience some different things, but all in all, sometimes now with how everybody's getting sick, and sometimes depending on where you stay, the commute sometimes is like unbearable. Like you have to go to sleep super early and wake up super early just to get to work, just to really take off time from your family or time you could actually be doing work by just logging on. You know, I think more companies should go into, hey, we pushing for y'all to come in, but just if you want to come in, and I guarantee you, there are a lot of people who don't want to be at home. They'll come in just to come in. I know a lot of people that do.
I'm one of those people, like, you know, I don't know if my wife is watching. She asked what the link was, so I got to watch what I say now. But yeah, no, there's times where I love being home. We just bought a brand new house and everything, and we're still getting everything set up, and I get to do, you know, the manly thing and fix it up the way I want it, and with her
you got a nice
approval.
office right there, man.
Yeah, thank you. I'm still working on it. I'm gonna put some more stuff on the wall and change it up a little bit, but I get tired of being at home. I honestly do, you know. So it's nice because I don't have to spend gas. I can cook my own food and everything, and because I work remote and I'm in a supervisor position, I have a little more flexibility to kind of walk around. I'm not sitting at my desk all day long. So yeah, but then every once in a while I'm like, I need to talk to someone else besides my wife and the dog during the day. So, you know, I have to go in. I like going in. I like our office. I like the people in our office and everything. So when you have a good office environment too, it makes you want to go in. One guy, he is the director of training. He goes in every single day and he doesn't have to. They're like, why do you come in? He goes, I just want to get away from my wife and kids. This is the only time I can do that. And so,
I totally understand that.
So
and I
was
think,
like,
and it's also like, if you go to office and it's a purpose, like for me, going to the office there's no purpose because my team isn't there. They're all in Ohio. So it's like, why am I here?
Right.
You know,
right.
I don't even, I've talked to a couple people here and then I leave.
Yeah. And I mean, you have that flexibility to just, again, it just depends. But I think when COVID hit, a lot of companies realized that, oh man, this actually works a lot better when they're
it's
at
cheaper
home.
for it.
And it's cheaper because now you're not renting out that office space. So it's a really good thing to have that flexibility to be remote. And I love telling, you know, individuals, like, look for those jobs that will offer you remote. Sometimes you might have to come in for 6 months and then, you know, like get trained up because you need someone there to help you, and then you get a chance to be remote. Perfectly fine. I think it's normally 3 months and then you can be remote, or just like a simple hybrid. Hey, 2 days in the office, 3 days at home, or vice versa, something like that. So with our help desk, like in our California site, we had 3 people. We're finding a replacement right now, but they would basically, one person would go in every day, you know, out of the 3, and then 2 of them would go in an extra day, and then they just rotate, you know. So someone's going to go in at least 2 days, a week. So every third week you're going in. So it just helps build that morale and rapport. And then especially being at the help desk, if you have all your access and everything, being at home is probably one of the greatest feelings, especially if you've been going in for a long time.
Amen. Yeah, definitely, man. So we can give the people like some value. Since you're an IT supervisor now, what do you look for when you are hiring talent for your team?
So what I look for, and so my manager and I, we'll both interview at the same time. Just so our team is, of course, we want those technical skills, right? You have to have the technical skills that we're looking for in order to become a member of our team. But another thing is your personality. It's a big thing for us because we have 13 people on our service desk right now, and we all get along. We treat each other like family. One of the guys that works under my team, my specific team, because I take care of the top 25 pharmacies in the company, he messaged me last night, hey, my husband is in the hospital. He's not doing good. I'm scared. And, we're talking back and forth and, giving each other kind words and whatnot. And we just have that family dynamic. So I'm always looking for someone who can come in, blend in with the team once they get to know everyone. Just that good personality. So it's those soft skills that we're looking for. Personality, good soft skills. How do you handle these irate customers? How do you handle, or how do you talk? And so just because we've been interviewing in the Atlanta area, and one thing I will say that really, really bugs me, and I know is just whatever, because we have mobile devices, laptops, cell phones, and everything. We can get on any interview anywhere at any time. One of the biggest things that bugs me is if you're in the car and you're on the interview and you're on your phone and you're driving or someone else is driving you, I don't feel like that's professional. I really don't feel like that's professional. It's
It's
one
not
of those
professional.
things. Yeah, it really isn't. I'd rather you, okay, if you're on your phone, be sitting in a place where you can actually have a conversation and you're not looking around and stuff like that. So come in with a good attitude, of course. Attitude is key. So you come in, you're smiling, you make, jokes and whatever, friendly jokes. Talk about yourself, because you're interviewing us as much as we're interviewing you. And we have to build that rapport. So I will say one of the greatest interviews that I probably had was when I got hired on at Baylor Scott and White. I always take a notebook with me. I take my resume, copies of my resume, and I take a notebook with me just in case I want to take notes while they're talking about certain questions, because at the end, I get a chance to ask them stuff. So I stopped by the dollar store, because I didn't have one at home. Stopped by the dollar store. I pick up the first thing I see, and I'm just like, okay, cool, go. I get there, and Jamie, her name is Jamie, she was interviewing me, and Tanya was on the phone. She was remote. And Jamie goes, Tanya, I wish you were here. Greg is here, and he is sitting here with a notebook, and it has purple polka dot banner on the side. And Tanya's like, purple is my favorite color. I was like, it's just that boost. It's like that. There it is. So, but you know what? Hey, I got the job and everything, and I'm myself. I'm just a people person. I'm a social person, and you can ask my wife. I'm not afraid to talk to anyone, but just be yourself. Be yourself. Come with a good attitude, and try to be in a spot where you can actually give us your undivided attention and answer the questions as best as possible.
Yeah, man, that's a big one. Like when I do interview prep, we'll be on Zoom sometimes, and I'll try to see, okay, hey, where are you going? Is this virtual, in person? Okay, if it's virtual, let me see what your setup's like. Are you gonna be like against a neutral wall? How's your laptop gonna be set? It because, like, for example, I interview on the same camera I'm talking to y'all on, so most of the time I'm not looking down, I'm just looking straight at the camera. So it's like
Right.
I'm like we're making eye contact with you, even though I'm not looking at you. And it's one of the
Right.
things that help me. So I try to help people position their laptops like that too. So it's not like they're looking down when they're talking to them. It's kind of just like this. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of just it just makes your body language feel a little bit more confident. But
Mhm.
what would be some technical skills like that you can say either that you hired for or that you just think would be just foundational for someone to know that want to get into help desk? Because someone asked that earlier about they want to get in help desk or a boot camp. So I figured we just ask the question here, like, what would be some technical skills outside
Yeah.
the soft skills that you could look for them to have?
Yeah. So definitely technical skills that I think are most important is just understanding your A+ foundations, right? Hardware, media, cabling, network basics, security basics, just understanding all of those. And then, of course, there's applications that are really great to know, especially because most environments are Microsoft heavy. So, knowing how to work in Office 365, Outlook, fixing application crashes and things like that. Um, those are key things. How to fix network issues, things like that. Um, I with cloud being so huge now, it doesn't hurt to go ahead and start prepping for that because a lot of people are moving over to cloud-based services and using Azure. So find a if you don't want to pay for the boot camp or something like that, or you don't have the funds to pay for it, there are lots and lots of videos that walk you through Azure. And I believe Azure still gives you like a free subscription to, you know, get in there
They give like
and play around with
$200.
it. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, you just have to look for it and everything. So there's resources out there, and especially if you're a veteran and you're listening to this, there's a lot of free IT courses out there. AWS offers free IT training, um, and I mean, you start off with the basics, and then they have an umbrella, and it's like, okay, well, do you want to go on this route? Help desk? Do you want to go programming? Do you want to go development? Do you want to go whatever? So, but for getting in, again, just understanding software applications, your main software applications being Outlook, Excel, how to troubleshoot slowness on computers and network issues. And if there's additional applications that the company has, they're going to train you up on that. But you need to know at least the basic that everyone works on every single day. So that's what I would say.
Dope, man. Dope. So now that's out of the way. I hope you guys was listening to that. Let's get to a real question. Do you think, them boys gonna pull off that win tomorrow against the 49ers?
Oh man, yeah, yeah, man. Okay. So
You
I'm
going to Texas
Cowboys
Live and
fan,
watching it?
Cowboys fan for life. So again, born and raised in Texas and everything. Grew up on the Cowboys. Watched Emmitt Smith, Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, Michael Irving. When I was in elementary school and stuff like that. So I always followed them. So tomorrow, I think if the defense comes like they did and play like they did against Tampa Bay, yeah, we have a real good chance. It's all about that defense because I mean they have so many weapons. The 49ers have so many weapons, and the one one guy that I'm afraid of.
Debo.
Debo, it's Debo. Dude just is.
Debo.
He's like a truck, man. So he's like a truck. You see him and you just, I don't even want to. But
ain't no way, boy.
Yeah. So,
ain't no way, boy.
If and they stop the run, they got to stop the run.
No way.
So if they do that and like kind of force Prudy to pass a little bit more, I think they got a chance. And of course, the offense, give it. I love Zeke, but give it to Pollard. Let him take off. Give him a seam and let him take off.
I'm going to tell you how I see it going. I see 49ers doing good in the first half, and then Dallas pulling away at the end by like 3 points.
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to take them a half to kind of understand the offense now that they got McCaffrey. But like you said, they're going to have to make them rely on Purdy. And really, as I look at the highlights from the Seattle game, they weren't even getting pressure on him. So if they can just dial up the pressure, even if they're not getting sacks, but just force him to make some uncomfortable decisions, they should fare better. And on the offensive side, all they got to do is keep it simple like they was doing last week, but against Tampa Bay is, running the ball, Pollard, Zeke, use those tight ends that they got. They look good. That's probably the best I've seen Dak play. And I always, I'm not a Cowboys fan, but I want him to win. Played against him in high school, so I'm gonna go for the hometown kid. Definitely want the Cowboys to win. I feel like I would put it like this: we both was like small last time Cowboys like even sniffed the Super Bowl. So I want them to actually finally at least go back to another NFC Championship at least.
Right.
And I feel like it might be destined for them and the Eagles to battle it out because nobody really knows out of those two. Like people think it's the Eagles, but you got, they split. I think one time when Dak was playing, and then when your boy what's his name, Cooper Rush was playing, so they kind of split them. So if that would be a very intriguing NFC Championship because they used to always go down to the wire, even back to when Wentz was okay back in the day.
Right. So I think it's going to be a really good game, really important game, especially for the Eagles today too. Eagles are coming in with that bye week. They have a lot of confidence, but sometimes you can have too much confidence and not make the right decisions. So
never too much.
And it's any given day. It's any given Sunday, but right now it's on Saturday, Sunday, so it's any given day. But yeah, I think whoever makes it to the Super Bowl this year it's gonna be exciting, So but I am gonna pull for my boys. I love to see them win and get closer to the championship, and kind of put it in Stephen A. Smith's face, like
what can go wrong will go wrong.
So.
Oh man, he just asked a good question. Oh man, I'm gonna take a stab at this and I'll let you go and see.
Oh yeah.
You guys ever had a manager that prevented you from moving up? How'd you get around that? Yes, I did. And how did I get around it? I left the company. That's what I had to do. I just had to leave because there was no way around that level of gatekeeping. So I had to leave, unfortunately. I'm gonna let Greg just take a stab at that and see what he comes up with.
If it was me, I would do the same thing. I will leave if I see that I'm a good fit for that opportunity, for that position. Definitely want to keep pushing. Be candid with the manager and everything, but there's other positions out there, and I know a lot of people hate starting over, but one thing I will say, and I always bring up Baylor Scott and White because I have so much experience. I started off with them as a contractor, and then I left my contract role for a full-time role, and then I got called back. The manager called me back to come and work for them, and I stayed with them. So moving over from security administration to Active Directory, I told my manager, "Hey, I'm interested in this. I want to go into the Active Directory realm." And she was like, well, I mean, you can interview. And I was like, I'm going to interview. I'm just making you aware of it. So, I talked to the active directory manager, and he was like, "Yeah, okay, cool. I interviewed. Thought I did good." And when he had agreed to promote me over, and told my manager, she was like, "Are you sure you want him? Like he's kind of lazy sometimes." And he wasn't supposed to tell me that, and he didn't tell me this until like towards the end when I was leaving, and
Right.
and so he said, one of the things that he said was, "Hey, you work great. You do a great job. And the reason why they probably thought you were lazy is because security administration, you're doing the same thing every single day. So you get burnt out. You're not going to want to." But,
Yeah.
again, so to answer the question, if they're really preventing you from moving up, you can have one or two choices. You can go to HR or go above that person and kind of push for it, or just leave and start over somewhere else.
Yeah. And that was me because like I think I briefly told you about like, your boy Randall from recess prevented me from going to messaging, and the recruiter told me that he acted like he didn't know about it. And then I found out right when I was leaving that he probably was part of the reason why I didn't get to go to the internal security operations team for
Yeah,
CSC, because they wanted
yeah.
me. So it was just like I'm done. I couldn't really do any more calls. I just had to. And I think that's how it's supposed to go, because like it was like I felt like I felt like the Fresh Prince of Bel Air when I moved to Lil M in 2016 from leaving where I was from. It was crazy. I still remember that day like it was yesterday. Um, but yeah, man. And then all right, this is gonna be like the last question, because we could probably go 2 more hours if I ask you this. But
Shit.
we're gonna go. Who's your favorite Marvel character?
Marvel character. Man. So right now, I would have to say Doctor Strange. I love his, and I'm not only basing it off of the comic books and everything. I'm basing it off of the movies and
Yeah.
everything that's been recently coming out. I think Doctor Strange is that character that he has so many avenues where he can do whatever. And the last movie, it was like, yeah, I enjoyed it. It's entertaining.
I like it. I had
Um,
to go back and rewatch it. Actually, I feel like I missed some stuff.
yeah, it was, when they went to that other, the world where, now you got Mr. Fantastic and the Captain Carter and all them, and then Professor X comes out, you're like, oh snap.
Yeah.
That was a monumental moment for me for that. So I would definitely say him, Doctor Strange. Deadpool would be my next one, because the fact
Because
that
it's
he can
comic book
cross over,
awareness.
yeah, he can cross over into the both, the Avengers realm and the X-Men realm. Um, and then of course Thor. Thor is definitely a key lovable character. I think it's Chris Hemsworth, right? Who plays
Hmm.
him. So I
Yep.
think he's played that role to a T. So and it's God of Thunder. Come on, man.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with that.
Right. We got a question real quick.
Yeah.
Thanks for the super chat. Let's go. Nick says, I'm a 30-year-old mailman breaking into tech. I just recently scheduled my Security Plus exam. Would it be better to go for IT help desk or SOC analyst? So I'll answer this first and I'll let Greg give his opinion. Um, so I'm gonna be very blunt with you, and this is why my clients like me, because I kind of give it to them straight. Even if you get that Security Plus, it's not going to prepare you for a SOC role, because it only prepares you to pass the test. I have, and I'll probably just put it. I probably can attach it once Greg is talking. I'll attach it to the chat. But I have these SOC analyst interview questions in these forms that I created from on Google Forms, and I see so many different answers. Some of these people have their cert, some don't. And if you can't answer some of those, and you can still use Google, but you still need to come up with an answer that will be, justifiable in an interview. If you can't answer some of those things and you don't understand it, then you're not going to be ready to work in a SOC role. Now, where IT help desk would help you would be giving you that foundational skill, like I talked earlier about learning about Active Directory. You learn about, well, directories, file paths, PS exec, messaging using like Outlook, network printers, like all these different things that you learn about that typically you will probably be looking into as a SOC analyst, seeing if somebody is doing something they're not supposed to do on a network will help you. So to
Mhm.
answer your question, do everyone have to do help desk? No, but it can be beneficial if you know what you want to do with it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that. I think again, going into a help desk in any starting wherever, no matter what age you are, if you're getting into the IT field and or don't have a lot of experience in the IT field, but you've been to school and stuff doing that, your help desk is definitely going to give you a lot of room to grow. And one of the key things is to let them know, hey, I want to move to this area. Like, do y'all have training programs? Do y'all have like mentorships at this company that help people grow into that area? So, you know, like Henry was saying, probably looking at those questions first and seeing, oh, okay, can I answer these? Without googling them, is gonna kind of give you that yay or nay moment. But there's nothing wrong with the help desk. It's just you got to find a good one that wants you to succeed.
Yeah, that's just like women.
Hey,
But
there we go.
I was gonna say, like, since we was talking about like favorite Marvel characters, for the longest, my favorite character has been from childhood has been Spider Man. It's always been Spider Man.
Okay, yeah,
And it's always been because, and it's one of the reasons why I also like Batman as a character too. It's the human element of Spider Man, of where like he's just not OP beating everybody up, even though there's a lot of people he actually can beat up that they make him like lose to sometimes, like in comics,
hmm
especially if you go into like I got one of the comics, either Ben, I think Ben sent it to me, or either my friend Tim. It's one of the ones where like he freaking is just killing, he's flying and killing Magneto. Like it's different variations of
what?
him, but I've always
Yeah,
liked that. He could think out how he's gonna beat somebody. Like that's for me. I always think about, okay, my strength might not just get like, how do I do this? Like, right. And so it's like
hmm
one of the things like that makes, a Spider-Man, a Black Panther, Batman, and whoever else is a strategist, what makes
yeah,
them very good characters that can adapt to anything. Even if you go to somebody like, and I gotta do some more like digging, but I wouldn't mind. You know what I don't like? We don't get villain movies. We only get the
yeah,
superheroes.
yeah. We
I
don't
would
get their
love to
side.
get I would love to get a
Yeah,
Doctor Doom movie.
man, I mean, I think the best way for them to do Doctor Doom is Disney Plus does a series and then
Hmm.
introduce him to a movie. Because I mean, you're right, and they could just have that's a whole new genre, not genre, but that's a whole new thing that they could tap into,
Yeah.
and people would want to know the backstory, especially if they're a really big key character. You
Yeah.
know,
Because the funny thing is, like, as you get older, you kind of realize, hey, the villain, he might tell you a joke, but he might never tell you a lie. You realize the villain
hmm
actually got a lot of reason to why he a villain and why what he
oh yeah,
doing actually makes sense.
yeah,
Even the construct of, even getting older and realizing nobody's really wrong when it comes to Magneto and Professor X. Just two
yeah,
sides of a different, of the same coin.
right, exactly. So,
But yeah, man, that's we could that could definitely just be another live stream. Like get like I have a friend like y'all would like when we were talking about the comic stuff earlier. Like he knows all the stuff. Like I love going to movies with him because he knows like, oh, that's so and so, that's so and so, that's so and so. They was in this coming, this coming. He tells us like all the time. Like, he said, oh yeah, Kane the Conqueror is going to be in Ant-Man, and then all these different things. Uh, but let me hit this real quick, and hopefully they'll let me in the background. But what is What is something that you want to leave the chat with right now, or the listeners right now?
Man, first off, just very thankful again for opportunities to be on here. Everyone who's been in here, I hope that I provided some good advice and everything. Again, like I said, help desk is a great role to start off with, to build up your foundations, to build up your experience in your career starting off. There's nothing wrong with it. Just, you got to be careful and don't get stuck. Because I believe a lot of people do get stuck in that sense that they're like, okay, this is it. I can't go anywhere else, when that's a lie. You got to continue to grow, continue to educate yourself, get out there. There's plenty of boot camps, there's plenty of videos, different schools that just, hey, we're going to train you to where you want to be. So, again, that's all I want to say. And go Cowboys. And again, appreciate you, Henry, for having me on.
Oh yeah, man, anytime, man. And for my listeners, y'all already know I got to do, man. If y'all need help in your career, please get at me. Look at my offerings page. I will be adjusting my hours slightly just to work around my work schedule, but I got some good things in store for you guys. Definitely when I release these other videos, I think they're going to be very helpful for you all, especially in your career. If you're kind of deciding on what you want to do with it, should you make this move or shouldn't you? But yeah, I appreciate everybody. Thank you for the YouTube chat listeners and watchers that tuned in today. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, please make sure you go ahead and leave us a review. It really helps out the podcast and helps other people learn about the podcast. But, like I always say, let's stay textual. It's your boy HD. And until next time, we out.